Where'd your rug go?
I removed it.
Your house looks like so much brighter.
You know, I was doing 6 Capoeira classes a week and was destroying it with, sweating on it for 6 hours a week.
Ah,
The rug had to go.
I see.
There we go. Some more light in here. All right. Good to see you all. Find a comfy spot with the feet together and the hands on top of the head. Big hip circles. Focus on bringing the body all the way around the feet. Relaxing the feet in the beginning. As you get more comfortable, grabbing the ground very lightly with the toes. Stabilize that circle. Changing directions. Again, for the first couple, just work on making a clean, clear circle. The upper body is a counterbalance to the movement of the hips. Good. From there, opening the stance a little. Hands on the hips as the pelvis rolls back. The body comes forward as my back is straight. Pelvis comes forward. Body comes up. And continue. Focus on the rolling of the hips. Stabilize in the middle of the torso by drawing the umbilicus towards the spine. If you want more of a challenge, bringing the hands to the center of the chest. And more of a challenge still, bringing the hands to right behind the ears. If the hands are behind the ears, be really careful that you're not compromising the angle of your back. Make sure you're still rolling the pelvis back to drop down, forward to lift up.
Hmm.
And one more. Very nice. Bringing that stance a little more narrow. So you sink down, same thing with the back, belly draws the spine, straight back as I draw down, lift, and use the elbows to open up my chest. Pelvis rolls back as I sink, forward as I lift. Hips lead, body uncoils as they follow. 1, 2, 3. Two more. Last one. Very nice. Expanding the stance outwards. Back is once again parallel with the ground. Turn and look past the hand. And 10 more of the swoop. Bringing the feet back together a little. All right, this next one is the same movement as the first one. Then we're working on that great big hip circle. Only now, as I roll back, I'm gonna create that space. My knee is not entirely straight, still a little bend. As I roll through, focusing on the circle, body rolls. If the movement feels choppy, focus on the circle first a few times, make that feel nice and clear, well-defined, and then add the body roll from there. Five more. Last one. Change directions. Focusing on that circle first. Five more. Last one. Okay, shake that out for a second. We're going to add in one of our low stance preparatory drills today. So beginning with our feet together, hands on the knees, big circles. Other direction. Good, now forward, open, back, and in. And next, back, open, forward, and around. All right, so for this exercise, we're gonna start with the feet about shoulder width apart. I'm gonna start with a side view so it's easier to track what I'm doing. I'm drawing the belly to the back, keeping the hips in neutral. As I turn, I'm sinking gradually. And whenever I feel my posture has gone far enough, my legs are getting too tired, I'm gonna stop. But if I can continue, I'm gonna twist myself all the way down and then raising from the head neck, lifting back to neutral, gentle twist all the way down if I can, maintain that back angle, and then drawing back up. Watching as I twist, if I go to here and I can't go any lower without my butt coming out, my back getting off center, then this is as far as I'm gonna go. And I'm just gonna play in that range back and forth, slowly challenge myself deeper and deeper as the weeks go by, okay? So again, feet to shoulder width, begin the twist, gradually sinking, umbilicus drawing the spine, head neck lifting, raising from the head and neck as you come around, and turning to the other side. If you want more of a challenge, widen the stance just a little so you can really feel that stretch in the piriformis as you sink down. Gradually sinking, gradually raising, and two more. Last one. And back to center. All right, shake that out for a second. Hands on the knees. Do 5 circles each side. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Other side. 4 and 5. And again, don't worry if the first few times you can only sink down just a bit. That's still working on the postural muscles we need to help support the knees as we go into our low stance work. So any depth that you go to is good. The stronger, more stable you get, the deeper and deeper you'll be able to sink. Let's do some hip circles next. My timer. Okay, so starting with that right hip, external rotation, around, in, and through. First revolution, just focus on making a clear, clean circle. As you get more comfortable in the shape, start gently gripping the ground with the toes. That's going to decrease the amplitude of the movement and help focus that power up through the body. Next, drawing the umbilicus towards that lumbar spine. That's again just going to help that movement from the foot to traverse up your structures into your chest. Finally, raising that head neck just a little bit towards the ceiling so that draw doesn't get stuck in your shoulders and neck. And change legs. Again, first couple, just play with that idea of the circle. And then from there, at your own pace, adding in the foot grab, belly draw, and head neck lift. If adding on those 3 new elements makes the circle less round and feel less clear, go back just playing with that shape, and then again, slowly add them in, trying to maintain the ease of that movement with each of these limiting factors. As the hip rolls around, drawing back, reaching into the other hip, now playing with that figure 8. Intentionally drawing each circle, connecting to the next. Once the shape feels good, add in the foot grab. Then the belly draw. And finally, the head neck lift. Paying special attention to when the hips round and change from leg to leg. Make sure that full roll as you complete one circle and engage the next. Good, back to the middle. Relax for a second. Shake out the legs if you need to. We're going to go back to our first leg, and this time working on internal rotation. In the beginning, it's totally okay to play with the distance between the 2 feet until you find one that's comfortable for this kind of roll. Again, for the first little bit, just play with that shape of the circle. And then just like in external rotation, adding in the foot grab, belly draw, and head neck lift as you feel comfortable with each sequentially. As a tired baby. All right, changing legs, internal rotation. Try a complete arc around and in. Once the arc feels good, adding in the foot grab, belly draw, and neck lift. Make sure the circle's always even. Try to find and smooth out any rough patches. And then next, rolling into that internal figure eight. Round in, switch hips. Make sure the hip gets that complete roll back as it transitions from side to side. Once the basic movement feels good, then start adding in the foot grab, belly draw, and neck lift. And relaxing back to neutral. Give our body a second, shake it out. Get a quick drink of water if you need it. We'll start up again in about 45 seconds. Thereabouts. Any questions so far? All right.
Are you circling? I'm kind of I've been visualizing my hip bone, the thigh bone, like the hip socket, as kind of the center point.
Right.
Is that what you visualize or feel as the center point?
Absolutely. And then from there, I'm playing with the opening to closing of the quad.
Uh-huh. Okay.
After I get the opening and closing clearly, then I'm playing with that very gentle rise and lowering of the hip as it rounds that circle. Because again, due to the ball and socket joint, it's not going to be on a plane as it travels around the circle. It's going to have a natural raise and sink. And where there's a sink, there's that action potential. Where there's a raise, there's potential for action too.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get as comfortable as I can with where those spots are, so you can bring them in and more complex movements at will from there.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yeah, I think. And when you're talking about raising, it's sort of that the hip, the pelvis, that kind of high point on the pelvis of the hip bone there.
Right. So you can have your hand on the ASIS, which is that crest right there, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Feel it too. But again, because the hip is a ball and socket, right, and not a gliding sliding joint, as it goes around, there's a natural lift to this half of the body as it arcs back, a natural sink as it comes in.
Right.
I really smooth things out and keep it even. There's that little bit of rock up and down through the hip.
Got it.
There's the raise. There's the sink.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, off that raise, I can attach a pull. Off that sink, I can draw in with the sweeping movement. And in the forms and also in application, I'm going to try to find those points to better accelerate and give power to my movements as I'm either displaying them or playing with a partner.
Great.
Yeah, cool. Great questions. Great questions. Anything else? Awesome. And a side note for the hip circles, I sent a video of me practicing this to Zhang Shuian, our lead Taiji master, 2 nights ago. And his response was 3 thumbs up and an enthusiastic good. So I'm hoping that means we're on the right track.
How?
One how, exclamation point, and then 3 thumbs up, which is about as, happy as the WeChats get. From here, we're going to work on slicing. So the first few moments, just playing with the roll of the arms. The hands raise, both palms towards the ground. As we arc up, the far hand turns palm up, near hand palm down as I slice. Both hands raise and pivot, slice, raise, while pivoting, slice. Also, you can see how the arms are never compressing against my torso. There's always space between my armpits and my body, and between my chest and hips and my hands. The slice is from the shoulder across to the opposite hip, dropping at that 45. Very nice. From here, We're going to start bringing in our internal hip rotation. The hip raises, the arms raise. The hip turns, the body turns, the hip sinks, the arm sinks. So whatever's happening in the lower, I'm going to try to mirror what's happening in the upper. These first two slices, I'm just going to try to line them up one for one. Hip raise, everything turns sink. Hip raise, arm raise, everything turns sink. Playing with that for a second. Good, space in the armpits, weight in the arms. Very nice. And you might be noticing that it's a lot of work raising the body and the arms at once, right? Everything's straining to lift, dropping to sink. There's not a lot of cycling from movement to movement. What we're going to change now is that as I raise, the hips begin to raise first, and the arms follow, turn to drop. Hips raise first, arms follow. So now there's kind of an accordioning through the body where the hips lead, and movement just cascades into the next part. Hips lead, raising up, up, up into the hands. Hips turn, arms follow. I really slow it down. You said roll the hips, then the arms. Sink in the hips, then the arms. From here, I can relax the movement, give more weight to the hands. You see, I'm not accelerating my hips too much. I'm just letting the arms flow a bit more easily. Once I can relax my breath and the cadence feels natural, the internal coil of the hips feels normal, then I can increase the pace of the hips. And I feel the weight of the arms increase, but the effort output of my body is not increasing, right? Because the arms are on that delay, they're just getting pulled by that natural sway of my hips. My chest and shoulders are relaxed. There's a slight concavity in the chest, which I achieve by knitting the clavicles together. Slight splaying in the back as the scapula, those big flat bones, move a little to the side in answer to the knitting of the clavicles. Feel the weight of the arms, and let that fall, get guided by the pull and change in the hips, trusting that the hips are going to guide you evenly from side to side. Weight in the arms. Play with that for a moment. Good, Laura, the slice looks great. The lift is in time. Very nice lake. Lake softening the arms a little as they raise up. Heavy to slice, heavy to slice. Feel that weight lift. As you raise the arms, feel the belly roll to help you support the arms as you lift it up. There you go. Good. As you lift the belly, the arms will soften. It's going to feel that structure settling in your stomach. Good, April. The movement's getting a lot more fluid. Just like with leg, feel the belly roll as the arms raise, roll to drop, roll to drop. There you go. The arms are heavy on the lift and the descent. And try to feel that weight in the stomach as you roll to lift and drop, roll to lift and drop. The more you can bring that weight into the middle, the less you're relying on your shoulders and the faster and ultimately more powerful this movement can become. Like without the arms, there's a lift to turn, lift to turn, lift to turn. And the arms soft, just flow off of that. There's a couple more seconds. Very nice, Eric. And same thing I was telling Lake Eric, let the arms be heavy as they raise up, same weight as they sink. Heavy to sink, heavy to sink. You're lifting that great big axe to chop the wood, right? You've got to use your whole body to get that axe up there. Good. Excellent, everyone. The more you can get out of your shoulders and at the middle move the arms, the more fluid and connected this movement becomes. Good, and relax for a second. Any questions so far? Does that belly roll idea make some sense? A little bit? Awesome. Awesome. It's a tricksy one, right? And part of why I started us all with that kind of more block-like lift, turn, drop, so you can feel what happens when the weight is in the shoulders, right? Not as coordinated, it's not as good looking, right? And it's just not as effective. As you can bring that weight back into the hips, and the arms flow off of that, my shoulders are now completely soft, but the movement's more powerful. Everything is more where I want it because I'm driving from the floor into the hands. So next up, we're working on our roll to press, and then from there, we're gonna get right into our form. So we begin, great big circles. Pulling the palms in, roll around. Palms draw in, roll. Good, change directions. Again, just get those hips loose. Couple more. Changing direction.
Are you doing an internal hip rotation or external? External?
So for the warm-up leg is
Yeah.
a circle.
Just a circle.
Not hip rotation yet. As I get more comfortable, right, it becomes an external.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? And so you can play with that action. See how it changes the aesthetic a lot when I start playing with that?
Yeah.
That's totally fine. The most important thing, though, is to have that roll you can manipulate. And so for a lot of people, the figure eights plus the roll was too much. And so I start with just that big roll so everyone can get some success with the basic shape. And then once that's there, the figure becomes a really easy thing to kind of add on next.
Okay.
All right. Good question.
Yeah, I was feeling an external opening, and I just wanted to make sure I was.
Yeah, that's absolutely what you want to be. Again, if I watch for a second, if I go into the press, that external roll becomes the foundation of my ward off, of my press, right? And so it's absolutely right there. And that's what we're gonna get into next. So starting from those big circles, we're gonna reach 1, 2, and now on 3, as the arms go back to the side, my left hip comes up, I round that hip, drilling into the back leg as I press. Good, changing sides. 1, 2, and on 3, the hands pull the hip forward. That hip rounds, drilling into the left hip as I press. And as I press, you see how the circle goes from here to very slightly oblong. I use the elasticity of that oval to draw me back around to the other side. 1, 2, and roll. Left hip rolls. As it draws back, the feet come very briefly to 50-50. And in that instance, I begin drilling on that right foot. That pushes the right arm forward and creates a support for that shape. Change sides. 1, 2, 3. Roll to drill. Good. 1, 2, and on 3, roll to drill. Excellent. Now watch me for a second. As I go to my third roll, pay attention to this back hand. The hand draws the front hand up, presses the front hand out. I change sides. My back hand draws the front hand up, presses the front hand out. And so even though this arm in front is my shielding arm, this is just making the contact, it's entirely dictated by the movements of that back arm, creating a space for it. Again, I roll around, pulling that arm up, and as I press, that's what turns that circle into an oval and allows me to change sides. Round, press, drawing with that backhand, the backhand pushes the front hand. Like so many things in Shuang Fu, the part that you're looking at first isn't the most interesting piece mechanically, right? It's just the part that's most visible. It's everything behind it that gives it the structure and power it needs to be a successful movement. Let's try a couple times together on 3. 1, 2, And on 3, going very slow, the front hip rolls, that right hand pulls the left hand up. We hit that 50-50 neutral point. I'm holding the ball. As I drill in that back leg, that drill continues all the way up that right shoulder, and that drilling movement as it pushes the left hand out. Changing sides, and on 3. 1, 2, and on 3, the pulling of the left hand brings the right hand to the middle. We hit that very brief 50-50 as we drill into that back leg, pressing out 2 more of these nice and slow. 1, 2, and on 3, roll the hip, draw the hand, press the hand. Other side. 1, 2, 3. Drawing the hand, pressing the hand through. And now if you want to go back and forth with the one, just play with that figure 8. Press, roll. There's external figure 8. Press, roll, press. And the more that yin backhand comes into the picture, the easier it's going to be to get that body feel in the abdominal area and lower dantian. Good. Play this on your own for a few seconds.
You're calling the backhand. This is the backhand, right? This one?
This one, so this is my front hand when I was pressing in. This is my backhand.
The pressing hand is the backhand.
Correct, right. And the function like of that backhand again, as I roll through, the backhand pulls the front hand up, presses the front hand out. The backhand pulls, to press. And that way I can take even more tension out of my shoulder and have all the movement of this arm be a direct kind of consequence of other movements in my body. Good, Laura. So Laura, as you press, we're here together. As I draw around, use that backhand to draw that front hand up and then push that front hand out. Good. It's kind of a kneading motion, right? Draw, press. Draw, press. Very nice. And Eric. So Eric, let's make a bigger circle as we round that front arm. So as I roll through, as I pull back with that backhand, the front hand arcs with. You see that kind of holding chi pose right here? As I round, the circle begins to compress because that hip is drawing in, pulling the hand with it. As I drill into that back leg, the shape's expressed outward. Round, draw. Now there's a circle in both my hips and my shoulders, right? The space in my shoulders is an analog to the space in my quad. As I twist, I close the back shoulder and that back hip a little, and that gives me the press to draw the shape forward. So everything here is a great big circle. As I drill in that back leg, that compression makes them come over an oblong shape in both the pelvis and the shoulders and arms. Roll. Pull to that circle, press to the oval. Roll. Draw that circle into form, press that circle into an oval. Draw, press. Draw, press. And we need that circle in the middle so we can traverse from that front hip into the back hip smoothly, and then use that potential energy to create the press in the arms. Continue. Couple more. Good, Blake. So as the movements looking good, Blake, as you draw, you know, Lao Gong is to Lao Gong.
Yeah.
That creates the round through here. And then as I compress, that creates the angle between my two hands. It's not vertical, it's at that rough 45. And then pressing out. Good. Roll, palms to ground. As soon as I draw, that immediately draws Lao Gong to Lao Gong. And then from here on out, there's a relationship between those two palms as they lift, press. For those who don't know, Lao Gong is the acupoint right here in the center of the hand. Roll, drawing palm to palm, press. Roll, pulling that palm up to past that middle. We find our circles, we press them into ovals. Two more together, then I'll watch you all again. Draw, palm to palm, press, roll, draw, press. And play this on your own for a second. Very nice, April. That draw is looking much more smooth today. Good, so April, the next little change for you is finding that figure eight in the hips. Is that drawing force and not just the great big circle. So if you watch me really slow, I roll my right hip, roll my left hip, drill, roll, roll, drill. And so whereas we start with this, which is a wonderful place starting the basic movement, now it's time to slow it down and feel that weight transfer and rotation in each hip as we go side to side. Does that make sense? Okay. Take your time. As I push that and roll that back hip, roll the front hip, and press. I do a side angle. See how I'm no longer leaning forward and back with the roll. Instead, I turn it into that figure eight in the hips. There you go. Good, keep playing with that. That was great. That was great, April. Very nice. And Eric. Will there be a bit more space in the pectoralis minor, Eric? The muscle right up here. There you go. Very good, very good. Good, Craig, as you press, space between the hands, palms at 45, still holding a ball. There you go. So I draw through. I create that sphere. I press that sphere, feeling the belly draw back as the hands press forward. Rolling, create that sphere, press that sphere. There you go, good. Very nice, Pam. The hip movements look a lot more smooth this week. That's great. Awesome, Pam. And as you press out, pay special attention to make sure the umbilicus is drawing to the spine as the hands press away. And so if I do any kind of press like this, or I'm too overcommitted forward, the weight goes to that front leg, I lose that stability of the back. As I actively draw the umbilicus in, that helps me to further root onto that back leg as I press forward and creates that elastic capacity as I change sides. And again, there are a number more principles we can play with in the getting that foot grab, belly draw, and neck lift will carry everyone here a good long way. We're gonna try it once more each side and take a break. Hi, Rachel. Good. And shake it out for a moment. Any questions before we move on to the form? There's an awful lot in just those first couple movements. And that roll to press is just such a hefty chunk of Li Taiji.
Yes, when you mentioned the figure 8, now I'm trying to incorporate that when you were talking to April, and it just, wow, that's just a whole nother thing to work in.
Everything explodes, right? And I mean, I've been racking my brain trying to think of the most efficient ways of teaching all of this because it is so complex. And the way that we do in Beijing is, the teacher kind of gives me a set of things and a few basic principles, and I work on it and I get as far as I can, and then I hit an impasse, and I hit my head against that impasse for quite a while. And then after a bit, they'll say, okay, so you've gotten this part down, okay, but here's the big principle you're missing that'll get you past this one hurdle, right? And so rather than just letting all of you struggle without guidance, as often happens over there, I'm trying to give you, just kind of a base framework so you can achieve some success on the beginning level. And then once we add, everything we're going to add in is stuff we've already practiced in the warm-ups, the hip circles, the coiling, all of that you can do really well. It's just a matter of coordinating that with more and more complex arm movements. And that's bottomless. That takes forever. And so don't worry if there's a jump right now. There are jumps for me constantly. There are jumps for my teachers constantly. It's just, how much subtlety can you achieve? Once you max that out, what else can you drop out? Once you're out of the shoulders, that's great. Then how do you use the ribs instead of the shoulders, right? How then do you get completely into the belly? How do you roll the belly to create shape? Each of these steps can take months to years. And so wherever you are, just, enjoy the movement, enjoy the play of it, and, keep the idea that it's always going to morph into something else. Nothing you do, nothing any of us do is ever right for tomorrow. It's just the most right we can do for today. And that's what keeps the stuff fun to practice forever. Any other questions?
You're a great teacher, Joe. You're a wonderful teacher.
And you are all awesome students. It really just makes my weekend to work with all of you. Thank you all so much for coming. This is a blast. Any questions before we go on to the forum? Sweet, I need a quick sip of tea, and we'll get started on that. Hey, Fritz, do you want to say hi? We'll get some tea.
Hi, Fritz. Hi, Fritz. How old are you now, kiddo?
6.
And she is learning ukulele.
Oh my God.
I know, it's pretty fun. All right, Fritz, it's status time. Say bye-bye. Bye. Okay. Let's work on that opening phrase. I know, just this frantic energy everywhere, Craig. So beginning with the feet in a balanced position. Take your time, just let your body rock. Feel your weight where it is as opposed to where you want it to be. And from here, we're going to add in our 3 postural elements to better achieve balance before we go into our first step. And once again, gently grabbing the ground so that you can feel that stability through the lower leg as those muscles engage. As that engagement through the lower leg spreads up through the body, we're going to feel engagement on the adductors, muscles on the inside of the leg. From there, we draw on the umbilicus to the spine so that body feel can travel even higher. And then so we can avoid getting stuck in the chest and shoulders, the head and neck raised slightly. And now hopefully that very subtle draw from the ground is making its way all the way up through the top. If it's not there for you yet today, don't worry. It takes just time. From here, the weight's going to pour up and over into that right leg. And as it does, there's a very subtle weight shift. It's not a lean or a collapse, just an acknowledgement that the weight has moved to that leg. This frees up our left leg to step. And to take that step, I'm not just going to bend the knee and step out. I want to draw from that core. So I need my psoas muscle, which is a really nifty muscle that goes from the pelvis all the way to the 12th thoracic vertebra and traverses front to back in the body. And to get that, I maintain that belly draw, and I feel that hip drawing to that opposite shoulder. Through that draw, my leg gently lifts, and then being controlled by the belly, steps out from the stomach. The weight then shifts. And again, take a few seconds, make sure your feet are parallel like you want them, make sure everything feels comfortable. There are no points lost for making adjustments. Relax the knees slightly. As we inhale, the arms are going to rise, turning with the palms up. So on the inhalation, the legs straighten a bit, but not to lock out. Inhaling until the arms get parallel with the ground. From here, we're going to begin our exhalation. And for that exhalation, turning side body, as you can see, there's a concaving as we exhale, and the fingertips turn in toward the yin tong, the acupoint between the eyes. As I continue that turning in, The hips turn in, the shoulders turn in, and it gives the appearance of the knees turning, though the knees are not initiating. They're just following that turn of the bigger joints in the hips. We sink down. I round my knees, and as I do, that rounding pulls the knees back to stable. So I create a really stable arch in my hips. As I continue to draw up, the arms past the side of the body slightly. And as I exhale again, drawing to the front. Inhale as I draw in. Hands pivot, fingertips up, elbows low. Exhale as I press out. There's a slight turn. So the right hip rolls out, the left shoulder rolls back, and then from there, I reverse it. The hands pull to the right. From that pull, from that psoas muscle again, drawing that right hip up. Stepping out on that 45 degrees. Roll the front hip, drill the back hip, achieving our first press. From here, the hand and foot, right hand and foot both pivot slightly. I then roll ball vertically rather, as I come up and through. That left hand begins to sink. As it does, that sink is going to pull my left hip, drawing the feet together, toe touching the ground. Stepping out on another 45, roll to press. Now I'm going to take a big step back just so you can all continue to see me because the framing is a little bit limited here. Same extension of that left hand, same vertical roll. As that forward right hand sinks, same pull to the right sided hip as the hip draws up. Now stepping out towards all of you, towards the camera, roll to press. The right hand and foot correct again, only this time gives me a pull that begins on the fingertips. It's going to pull my body forward and eventually pull my left foot just a bit off the ground. From here, drawing from that right quad, pulling across as the hands pass that axial line on the far side. I draw the left foot up, stepping out exactly away from the camera, roll to press. The left foot turns in as the hands cross. As I cross that axial line, that side body line, that right foot pulls in. Stepping out once again towards the camera. Roll, press. And now I'm going to do once more away from that draw, pulling that right foot in. The circle draws that left foot in and up. Stepping out away from the camera, roll, press. Now, I'm going to turn it 90 degrees so you can all see what I'm going to do, okay? But this hand is still facing away from the camera for all intents and purposes. As I sink, right hand is palm down, left hand's palm up. The body travels under that left arm and lifts into playing the peepop or an arm break towards the camera. And now for the last of our 7-star coils. Roll, draw that foot in from the roll, that right foot in. Step that right foot out one last time on a 45. Roll to press. We're going to carry through to the slices, to the peak, just so you can see how it fits in. We'll do the whole thing again. Drawing with that right arm as the left hand presses, pulling that left foot around and up. Right hand is palm to the ceiling, left hand is palm to the ground. Sinking on that right leg, like a bit of a pistol squat as the palms come together, pressing, rolling, lift to open. Gathering again, this time both palms up, right hand on top of the left. Lift, and as you lift, the left leg lifts too. As the arms open and the elbows extend, the knee extends. Hands turn, palms to the ground as I step, carrying 2 pails of water over my shoulders. Roll back, internal rotation of the hip. Step back, roll, And there's that slice we were practicing earlier. Turn that right hip in. Turn the left hip in. Step back. Set. So we've now done 2 internal rotations. The tricky part, now we're going to go to external rotation. Externally rotate left, externally rotate right, externally rotate left once more. We get underneath that ball and then use that last little bit of that external rotation to power our lift as we reach. Good. And roll. Step back, internally rotating as we slice the check. Rotate the right in, rotate the left in, second slice. Take a slightly wider step with that left foot. Externally rotate right hip. Externally rotate left hip. Externally rotate right as we get under. Lift, to serve, and relax. Shake it out for a second. We'll do the whole thing again in a moment. But just to explain that distinction between the internal and external rotation, it's a really nifty one, and it happens quite quickly, right? The internal rotation that we use for slicing, and we get a really smooth, powerful chop just by continuing that off, right? But now, internal rotation is a gathering movement. It's a drawing movement. It's not good for expressing outward. And so from that set, we use that external rotation to create that pull as we draw that ball, getting under the ball. So as we press out, I'm not pressing out my shoulder and arms, which are relatively weak. I'm pushing out from the ground, okay? This ball is being pushed out from that leg as opposed to me just standing and reaching out like that, which is a lot less stable. It lacks that coil. It gives the springiness to the base. Does that make sense so far, theoretically? Any questions so far about this before we do it a second time? All right, a quick sip of tea so I can keep talking. We'll do it again. Okay. Feet together. Sweet, just enough time. Relax that weight. Again, don't worry. The memorization of the taolu, of the form, is the least important thing we're learning today. It's just nice to have it because it makes the practice more fun. The weight relaxes over the feet. The weight settles into the ground. Foot grab. From that foot grab, those adductor muscles, those inside thigh muscles, draw together slightly. From there, the movement stops about the pelvis, but the umbilical draw takes the pelvis from here to there, and now I can feel that body feel the foot grab all the way into my core. To get all the way into the chest and arms, I raise the head and neck slightly, and now that grip in the ground is going all the way up and through, hopefully not getting stuck anywhere. Pulling up and over, the weight shifts. Pulling that left quad to the right shoulder, I lift from the hip, step out from the hip, and settle. Finding balance, I inhale. As I do so, the legs straighten just a wee little bit, but not to lock out, as the arms raise palm up to shoulder height, parallel with the ground. The exhalation begins that drawing inward, that rounding and drawing of the shoulders and the hips. Fingertips touch at yin tong, right between the eyes, and then the fingertips draw down the renmai, the central vessel in front of the body, until they get to between the knees. From here, that rounding of the arms pulls the hips and bellies to a stable arch, allowing me to stack my body in a robust way up and over my hips as I sink and gather. Drawing the hands to the chest and the chest to the hands, I come forward slightly, rolling and pressing away, but notice how there's a good arch and rounding to my back as I create that circle. Very nice, Craig, very nice. The hips go right just a little, the hands go left just a little, and then from there, I roll that left hip externally, and that draws the hands down and up, prepping to step out to the right. Stepping out in that 45 degrees, I roll to press. Right hand and foot correct to turn out. Roll the ball. As that now forward left hand descends, it pulls that left hip up. Continuing on that arc as I step out 45 degrees. Roll around that left hip, drill press into the right. Left hand and foot correct. Right hand rolls up and over. As the right hand descends, it pulls that right hip up. And now stepping out directly towards all of you. Roll to press. Good. As I change directions, I'm going to pull from my belly, and that's going to pull that hand and foot across. I'm going to go sides so you can see more easily what's happening. Drawing, rolling, pulling that back foot up, stepping out away from the camera, roll, and press. Same thing going back the other way. Belly leads, arm and foot hinged follow. Following that external rotation, now stepping towards the camera, roll, press. Last one of these. Belly leads, arms and hands follow, roll, lift, step away from the camera as we press. Now from here, the weight sinks, and as that weight sinks, the right hand presses, left hand comes up. If I'm pivoting on that left foot, I'm weighted on the right leg as I travel under. Now I'm weighted on that left back leg as I step back into playing the peapaw or breaking arm, hanging over pelvis. From here, roll, draw, step out on a 45, round that front hip, drill into that back leg, grabbing, drawing from the middle as the hands separate. And then that raising right hand pulls that left foot around and lifts it up to parallel with the ground. Pivoting that right hand palm down, left hand palm up as we press, roll, looking to the left, open. Hands gather, right over left. As the arms raise, and the shoulders begin to raise, the hip, the left hip raises with the shoulders. Both elbows and the knee are cocked. Both extend. Hands come palms down, reaching with that left foot, settle, holding 2 pails of water over the shoulders. Draw. Step, internally rotating, first check. Coil, step, second check. External rotation, get under that ball, externally rotating, even as we lift, to find stability through that leg as we press. Drawing back to the ground, internal rotation right, as we step back. Internal rotation left as we step back. Now, that left foot's gonna take a little step forward. You're gonna have a little more space. Externally rotate right. Externally rotate left. Externally rotate right. Into the lift. And just so you can all see, stepping out, we have this ball. We press that ball. We roll that ball. And the raising of the ball pulls the feet together, step out with the right foot, press with the ball, and relax. So for practicing the form further, I will be posting this video on the YouTubes with all of you, of course, edited out unless you want to be in. You are welcome to use that as training. Also, if you look under the channel, under the spring form, you can see my teacher, Zhang Shuyan, demonstrating the entirety of this set, and he is just the best. So we all have access to the primary source, and I'll do my best to, fill in the gaps as I can. Sound good? Awesome. Any questions for me before we call today's class and get ready for Bagua?